I am Sasha Robinson. I'm the principal of Gillen Primary School in Alice Springs. I have 312 children currently enrolled, 180 are Indigenous. Our school is one of the highest populated Indigenous schools in Alice Springs, and we have a number of staff that support our Indigenous students, but we work for all of our students. At Gillen Primary School, we do have some issues with attendance. However, we have wonderful staff. We have our Home Liaison Officer, we have our Aboriginal and Islander education worker who supports families to ensure that their children can come to school. So it's really about working towards removing the barriers that some families have, transport, ensuring that the children are here with food. We have great opportunities for children through our nutrition program that's run at the school. So we're just trying to remove all the barriers so that children can be here every day.
My name's Jeanette McCormick Nangala, and I work as a EALD AL teacher. The accelerated literacy for me is like a way of teaching in the classroom in a good sequence so you can follow it and understand it. You're teaching them about the academic language, the literate discourse that goes into the teaching of English. So when the children came in, they are bringing in their background knowledge. So, you know, they're already bringing about storytelling. They know about storytelling. They might have symbols like we use symbols. You know, we use the dots and things, circles. When you see dot paintings, so that's our symbols of telling story. Then they're learning how there's new symbols that they have to learn, like letter formations. What I've discovered is spelling is the key, because there's so many rules and the letters and things change. A O becomes a W, an A becomes a U in some words. And you know, the parts all come together. All those vowel sounds are the hardest ones for our kids. An elder already quoted that they wanted to know that secret English that you teach.
As part of our journey at Gillen, we have implemented the Australian curriculum in English, mathematics, science, history and geography, and we've already started to look towards the implementation of health and physical education, particularly in terms of growth and developmental stages from our preschool right through our primary, to ensure that our children are reaching attainable standards. And we've also discussed languages as we work in conjunction with the Languages Centre that operates through the Centralian Middle School. So it's a very exciting time in terms of curriculum and new curriculum beginning at Gillen. Visible learning is very important in all schools in Alice Springs. Visible learning is about using the highly effective strategies that Hattie was able to find and looking at the tipping point or the 0.4 effect factor and using that to see which strategies we use in our school. Part of our visible learning journey is an action plan in numeracy and ensuring that our staff are able to provide feedback of all different levels, so it's not just praise, and students are able to use that feedback to ensure that they work towards higher student outcomes and set goals about their learning, taking ownership of their learning and knowing where they're at and where they can go to.
My name is Kylie Johnston and I am currently the acting assistant principal here at Gillen Primary School. Currently I'm assisting in implementing the visible learning journey at Gillen Primary School, which includes observing teachers and giving them feedback on their practice. At the moment we're focusing specifically on the 4 levels of feedback around mathematics. Teachers plan and program using the multiple year level documents at this school, which is based on, of course, the Australian curriculum.
Okay, let's look at take. What do we call take? Subtract or subtraction.
My name is Ali Donaldson and I work for the Northern Territory Department of Education in Central Australia. I co-authored the multiple year level units in mathematics, and the reason we did those was a call from our remote schools. With the introduction of the Australian curriculum, the schools felt overwhelmed in how they were going to implement the curriculum, given that without very many exceptions, all schools in remote zones are multiple year levels in one class, and the range of levels of the students in those classes is huge also. These units ensured that all students covered the same concepts and skills at the same period of the year within that 5 weeks. That way, the mobility of students, nobody missed any lumps of the curriculum, and all students covered all areas through the year. The multiple year level units were specifically developed as a framework, not as a standalone resource for teachers. They are a secondary layer document. They are hyperlinked. Teachers do not receive them in hard copy. They're all online, and they're hyperlinked directly to the Australian curriculum. They're not prescriptive. They're not detailed to the degree that teachers can stop at that. They were deliberately designed so that teachers would go to the Australian curriculum, look at the elaborations, and become familiar with the Australian curriculum site and know it in depth.
The teachers at Gillen, when they're planning, they use the multi-level year units. However, we also access the samples on the ACARA website. We also utilise other teachers' units throughout Alice Springs to value add and to ensure that we provide all of our students with an engaging curriculum.
My name's Anne Young and I'm the transition teacher at Gillen. In my planning, I begin with the Australian curriculum. From there, I break the planning down from what is expected of the Australian curriculum. We use the multi-year level programs because we are a multi-year level school. And I then look at what the requirements are of each of the units, and I set out my planning with visible learning as a guide to how I plan. My next goal with the Australian curriculum is to look at how I can write my reports so that I can break each of the stages down to match what the children can do with every part. For example, in language or English, I can say, well, what can they spell? How is their speech? What is their literacy understanding? So just writing sentences that specifically relate to the topics or the headings that are put in that curriculum. I can very clearly say to a parent, this is what we're doing, this is how it works, this is what I'm expecting your child to achieve. And if they have any questions, it's very clear in black and white. And I've also said to many parents that the Australian curriculum is not a secret. If you would like to go to that website, you can get on there and have a look and see what we are required to teach and see how it all fits together.
The school is utilising the personal and social capabilities of the Australian curriculum to support our work in working with our children as they learn to deal with issues and conflict and start to develop resilience. We're using it to support our program, our new implementation of a social and emotional wellbeing officer at our school who will work primarily with our children and develop a scope and sequence that supports the You Can Do It program that we're beginning with our preschool to year 2. Our school-wide positive behaviour support, we've just begun to implement that using a very clear behaviour expectation framework, but it's also using the Australian curriculum to support where else we need to look at our children and what they really need, those characteristics of a learner, and that gives them emotional support but also provides for academic outcomes. The Australian curriculum is very important to schools in Alice Springs, particularly important to students at Gillen Primary School because it ensures that students at my school and students at schools in other states are all taught the exact same content and that they aren't actually missing out on any valuable knowledge that they should be taught, and it allows them to succeed just the same as students throughout all of Australia. They're learning the exact same. How that's done and how it's delivered is obviously contextualised to the place that you're in. But I know that my children, if they were to leave Gillen Primary School or Alice Springs and go to Queensland and a school in Queensland, they would be quite capable of developing their continuing their knowledge because they've already been a part of the Australian curriculum here.